This is our destination today, Guadalupe Peak in West Texas, the highest point in Texas. Join us as we explore and discover all the gems on this trail to Guadalupe Peak. We're at the trailhead for Guadalupe Peak. Guadalupe Peak's the highest peak in Texas, so we're gonna summit that peak this morning. I'm panning around so you can kind of see what the trailhead looks like. Join us as we explore and discover this trail heading up to the peak. Most of this trail is open to the sun. The good news is there's a few trees on this side of the canyon. It's a north-facing canyon, so we do have a little bit of shade as we go up, but you're probably going to want to leave early in the morning because there's very little shade until you get about a third of the way up. We're looking down into the valley that we just came out of. You can see the parking lot down below me. This is a relatively steep hike. It's a typical desert mountain hike. Steep, rocky, but got some good views. Great views as we look back in. I'll also pan across so you can see what the opposite side of the canyon looks like. Here, I'll just pan over there right now. That side has a place called Pine Bowl in it. That's also a well-known hike here. We'll probably head up into the Pine Bowl tomorrow and enjoy that view as well. Join us as we continue our hike to the top of Guadalupe Peak. This trail is a very horse-friendly trail. In fact, they've set up the beginning of the trail so that the horses go a different direction and then meet in with the main trail about 25% of the way up. As you can tell, the mountain gets steeper, so the sides of the trail are a little bit more pronounced. Pan around to my right so you can see how steep down it is as well. There's the trail down below us. You can see as it switchbacks up and down the mountain. It's a pretty steep face, so it keeps it well switchbacked. As I was mentioning before, this is a horse-friendly trail. There's actually 3 spots on the trail where they tell you to dismount your horse and walk. This happens to be one of them because of how steep it is. There's another section up by a bridge, and then right before you get to the peak, they have some hitching rails that you can hitch your horses at and walk to the peak. We come to this switchback, and we switch sides of the mountain, so we're on an east-facing slope, and you can see back down in there's the parking lot down below us, and the sun's rising, and there's the opposite canyon. Now I'll pan across to the other side, and now we'll be on the west-facing slope and the north-facing slope. So this slope, we're well over 7,000 feet now, and we'll be hiking in Pinyon Pines. So from this point on, we should be hiking in the shade of the ridge line. As we hike across this ridge, you can kind of see the trail as it makes its way across the ridge and over. Guess I'm not the only one on the trail this morning because that one is really fresh. In fact, I might have just scared it out of him. As you can see, we're finally in the shade of a little pinyon pine stand here. Kind of nice. We're on the shady pine side of the ridge now. It's kind of a nice little trail as we head through here, but I had to stop and take a picture of some of these fall colors. I love the fall colors. You've probably realized that from some of the videos that I take. I'm always taking pictures of the fall colors as we hike through them. So enjoy some of the fall colors as we make our way to the top of this peak. We're looking down into the canyon at those 2 sentinels on both sides of the wash. This is the entrance to Devil's Hall. After you go through these 2 sentinels, you round the corner and you're right in the hall, about 200 yards from the sentinels. Here you can see the back trail winding around through the pine forest. Kind of nice. We're just under about 8,000 feet at this point. As you can tell from the vegetation, we're getting the big ponderosas and much more grass. This area is relatively flat
compared to the steep ledges that we've been hiking on. And so this is actually where the campground is, just right around the corner, which is about a mile from the peak. There was a group backpacking in last night that came into this campground so they could watch the sunrise this morning off the peak. Maybe we'll see them on the way up.
We're approaching the turnoff into the campground. As you can see, there's a lot more grass, ponderosa pines. That takes you into the campground where it's a little flatter than what we've been hiking in. And we've got 0.9 miles to the peak. We're just on a ridge line overlooking the Guadalupe Peak campground up over my right shoulder. And as you can see from up here, there's some pretty cool views. Right there, back over my right shoulder, I'll zoom in on that, are some really neat pinnacles that sit down under that peak that's next to the pine bowl. And down in the canyon below me, and you probably won't be able to see it here, but I'll take some video of it. There's some maple trees down in there that are changing colors, so it's kind of pretty down in there. It's a gorgeous view from this point. It runs perpendicular to the canyon that has Devil's Hallway in it. You can see down in the bottom, some of the maples are already changing into red, so that canyon's pretty. Down there got a lot of red intermixed with the yellows and the evergreens. And then from this same vantage point, if I turn around, work my way up the mountain, there's our destination, Guadalupe Peak. We're heading back down the trail and up to our destination. You can see the face of Guadalupe Peak is right in the middle of its fall colors. This gives you another view of that cliff and bridge that we just crossed.
This is a great view because looking back at our back trail, you can see the bridge that we just crossed a few minutes ago. You get a great sense of the campground that you can camp on about a mile from the peak. And opposite the canyon, you can see Hunter's Peak, which is right above the pine bowl.
Back into a north-facing slope. So we're getting some color. There's some other trees in here. They look like fir trees. I'm not really sure what they are. They certainly look like firs. They're probably just more pinyons. But it is a pretty hike.
This is El Capitan Peak. It designates the end of the Guadalupe Mountains. We're looking south from this vantage point. I've also added a photograph from the desert floor looking back at El Capitan so you can see what it looks like looking north across the desert. This is the third and last spot for the horses. You drop them here and then you hike up maybe 50 yards to the peak. It's just around the corner.
And here we are at the summit. Guadalupe Peak, highest point in Texas. What's funny is I grew up in Texas. Had no idea this was the highest peak until I was moved out of Texas. This is our destination today, Guadalupe Peak in West Texas, the highest point in Texas. Join us as we explore and discover all the gems on this trail, Guadalupe.